And we're back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTKA, online at WTK.com. We're live here inside the Suburban Chevrolet Make the Choice studios. And you know what that music means. Every Wednesday, top of the 8 o'clock hour, we get some wisdom, some advice, some guidance from Marcus Ray and Rays of Light. Marcus, how you doing this morning?
Sam, good morning, brother. I'm doing extremely well. It's good to hear from you guys and talk to you as always.
Yeah, likewise, my man, likewise, and so much to get into.
Real quick before we get into all that stuff, Marcus, just want to thank you again. You were great on Friday during the Mott Takeover. You and Steve Clark talking to Mike Tirico and a few others. A real big part of us helping raise over $86,000 for CS Mott Children's Hospital. And then again, fun hanging out, watching people spend a lot of money in auctions at that event on Saturday night.
Yeah, Ira, that was a great time, man. It's always an honor and a privilege to work on the radio and help raise funds and just be a part of the entire Mott weekend. So I had a great time, and I'm looking forward to it next year.
Yeah, it was. And you got a chance to sit across from Mike Tirico, get some national perspective. That was great radio, man. I got to ask, Marcus, there's so many broad college football topics, some of which we got into with Brady Hoke, and I want to throw them at you as well. There's been a lot of talk here in the past few weeks about the potential for an early signing period in football. You see it in other sports. In basketball, for instance, they have a November signing period, and then you can sign. You can sign also in the spring and the late signing period. They can take official visits earlier. They can take them before the fall of their senior year. They can take them during their junior years. I'm curious if you think it's time for college football to do the same thing.
Sam, that's a great question. I've actually never thought about that before. I like it the way it is now with the standard December, January official visits, or at least during the fall. And then you have the signing day on, the first Wednesday of February. But, it would be interesting to see how that would play out. I like waiting until your senior year to physically sign and, make sure your grades and everything are intact. But that would be interesting. I mean, I don't know if college football is ready for that, but.
Well, kids are committing much earlier, like they do in basketball. You got kids committing as, sophomores and juniors in high school now. And so, in order to make an informed decision, what basketball decided to do is, okay, let's let these kids start taking official visits in their junior season, because a lot of if you're in California or Florida, that's a hefty bill to foot if you're just going to take a visit unofficially.
Yeah, that's true. Well, now that you put it like that, I think it would help the kids if they were able to take their visits earlier. I mean, I'm just so used to the way it is, but if they change that, I think that would be good. You got kids in Florida, Texas, California, etc. But I don't think they should be able to sign early, because okay. I think if they want to change their minds, that's the beauty of getting recruited is, and it's not good for college coaches, but for the player, you can commit and lock down a scholarship as a junior, at least to hold one. I mean, you have a bird in the hand. And then as things kind of play out, if a coach leaves or gets fired or some other guys start to go to different schools, you can change your mind. Once you sign on the dotted line, that's it. That would be the only concern I would have about allowing them to sign early. But as far as taking earlier visits, I'm fine with that.
It's funny that you bring up that thought process, Marcus, because I'm curious what your opinion is on what the school's recourse should be. Let's say Marcus Ray, you commit to Michigan as a junior, all right? January of your junior year. So a long time, over a year before you actually sign on the dotted line. And let's say, Miami comes around, and you've always been a Miami fan. And Miami comes around in the summertime and says, Marcus, look, just come down here and take a visit. The school at Michigan in that particular instance, would you begrudge them looking around to recruiting with that scholarship since you're going to take a visit to Miami?
No, I wouldn't begrudge them, and it's kind of like shopping. You go in the grocery store, you put all the stuff in the basket, but then it's not yours until you pay for it. And so you have the ability to put some things back or, figure out that you don't want that. So the schools do take the risk, and I don't think the NCAA should protect these universities because it's all a crapshoot. Because the universities do the same thing to the kids. They recruit 3 and 4 guys at the same position. They tell them all the same thing, and then once they get the guidance that they want, then the other guys fall to the wayside. Or they put a kid on hold, where they're waiting on their number 1 guy, and if they don't get him, then they'll take you. So it's just like the dating game, man. It's all high risk, but I think that the advantage should remain with the student athlete because they gave you their word that they committed and that they're coming. Sam, when I was coming out of high school, some of the older guys used to say, "Commit to everybody. Commit to everybody." That way, you have options. And that sounds kind of foul, but that's like that.
It more than sounds foul, man. That more than sounds foul. Marcus.
How many wives do you need, man?
Hey, commit to everybody, and then at the end of the day, you go home with one, and then you sign on the dotted line.
Hey, you know what, Marcus?
Marcus, this is not a night at the bar.
Right, and look, I don't think there's any problem whatsoever with a kid if he's committed to a school saying, you know what, I'm not sure, and I want to look around. That is perfectly okay. But I also think it's perfectly okay that if that kid told you he was committed and now he's not sure, it's perfectly okay for you to go look at other guys. And if there is another guy that is sure, then you can go ahead and take that guy. I don't see any problem with that.
Yeah, you know what? And so it really works both ways for the universities and for the players. But nothing is official until you sign on that dotted line. It's like being, it's like being either you're single or you're married. That's just the way it goes. And there are some morals and some ethics that code you have to follow. But at the end of the day, it's all, taking a risk and you're just going on the honor system. Once you commit, a university should feel like, all right, well, you're coming, so I'm not going to recruit other guys. But even after you commit, the university still goes after other players as a just in case.
We're talking to Marcus Ray this morning here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTKA, online at WTK.com. So, Marcus, there are a couple of conferences out there, the ACC and the SEC, that have announced that they're going to stay at 8 conference games. Big Ten is at 9 conference games. Do you think that's an advantage or a disadvantage for the Big Ten to do that? Should they stay at 8? Should they go to 9? What would you do?
I was the Big Ten. I would stay at 9. Or I would go to 9 and stay there and be proud of that because now you're expanding. You have 14 teams in the conference. That gives you 6 division games and 3 crossovers. And I don't think the Big Ten really can afford to continue to play the Mid-American schools or the the FBS schools or FCS?
FCS, yeah.
Just stick with 1AA.
Yeah, just stick with 1AA, right, Ira? It's like, okay. But I think the Big Ten needs to play each other, and cut out some of the games that don't give the conference a good reputation. So you go out, you beat up on a Mid-American Conference school, you're highly ranked in the polls because some of those highly ranked teams are only ranked that high for September matchups for TV. You have the number 14 versus number 6, but they're really not number 4 and 6. But at the end of the day, I think the Big Ten needs to play each other, rebuild their brand from inside out, and then each team should have a marquee game, one at home and one on the road. So then once you go there, that gives you your 9 conference games, 2 big-time non-conference matchups, and then maybe one less premier matchup. And if they want to keep the Mid-American schools just so they can make their money, too, when they come visit, I'm fine with that. But you can't saturate your schedule and water it down with opponents that aren't very good. Now you're highly ranked for a season finale matchup with your rival, and neither one of you really are that good. So I think the Big Ten, going to 9 games, I think is a good move.
Gotcha. Let's move on to the NFL. Not a whole lot going on, but Marcus, And Ndamukong Suh showed up to OTAs. Now that's a mandatory thing, so I guess maybe you don't get credit for what you're supposed to do. But it brought the topic back up, and I'm curious, Marcus. I know you're on record saying it's not a big deal that he wasn't at voluntary workouts. There are other former athletes that have said the same thing. I do wonder though if you think that while it may be okay for him not to make voluntary workouts, do you think that makes him less worthy of being a captain of the team?
I don't really think in the NFL it's a big deal to be a captain. It's a title. Some guys may run with it, but, when you're around, when you're a guy like Ray Lewis or a staple of the program or the organization like Tom Brady, and those are your captains, but Ndamukong Suh has been around a few years now. And I think it was good that he showed up to OTAs. OTAs
He had to, right?
Yeah. See, because OTAs are mandatory for the most part, but the voluntary workouts are voluntary. And my thing is, if anybody wants to make a big deal about it, just drop the word voluntary. Make it mandatory. Make off-season mandatory, and then I bet you he would be there. That's just the way it goes. But if you give someone an option, then they're going to exercise their power to choose. But as far as him showing up, I think, and participating and being there, I think that's a good thing. And he is pretty much the captain of the defense. I don't know if the entire team. I would like to see Matt Stafford or Calvin Johnson also be considered a captain too, but so you can get that good balance. But I think Ndamukong Suh is going to be fine. He knows what he's doing, and he just has to produce and stop some people.
Marcus, broad question for you, Marcus. You've played in college and the pros.
Mm-hmm.
Is leadership less important, less valuable in the professional ranks? Voluntary workouts, you guys in Michigan, you did your voluntary thing in the summer, right? I mean, you guys showed up. You prepared, and the older guys, the leaders on the units, they led the way in the offseason, did they not? Is that more important in college? Is it more valuable in college, what we know as leadership, than it is in the professional ranks?
I think it's more valuable in college because you're younger, and then you have school, and you actually kind of have to be there. I mean, you have spring ball, you're in school, and then summer workouts were voluntary, but most guys stayed and played, and there was more upperclassmen. See, there are no scholarships in the NFL. So when you're trying to lead a bunch of guys that you don't even know if they're going to be there, that's the toughest part. You almost can't even make friends in the NFL until September. You get cool with a guy, next thing you know, he's getting on a plane while you're getting ready to go to practice. And you're like, hey, what happened to so-and-so? But at least in college, guys are going to be there. There is a freshmen do look up to seniors still, or they respect upperclassmen. But in the NFL, rookies come in making more money than some of the veterans, and that's where they place their level of respect. Who's earning the most money? That's who I'm going to follow. So that's why leadership in the NFL really isn't as valuable unless you have a core group of guys who have been around, who have won some games, possibly went to a Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl. Then that's the model that you want to follow. And that's when you look at the Patriots, that's what they built. So it didn't matter if new guys came in. They had to follow suit because those core guys like Brewski, Tom Brady, all those guys had set the bar. But in college, it's kind of hard it's not really hard, but those leadership is very important in college because there's tradition. There's, guys who've been through the wars. You know that they're going to be there. You want to help groom some of these guys so that, when you graduate, you set like the Michigan way or you start to work with guys as a Michigan man. I started working on Larry Foote, Marquise Walker, Cato, Dave Terrell, Justin Fargas, as soon as they graduated and came up here in the summer of '98. I just, and I was on my way out, but they were on their way in, and it's not always like that in the pros.
Mm-hmm. I got you. All right, 8:24 on a Wednesday here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTKA online at WTK.com. The Michael Sam reality show. Good idea, bad idea, doesn't matter.
I think it's a good idea. Because it's already started. It's already here. And we live in a reality show world. I think it'd be good for him because if football don't work, he'll have other options. I really think he can spin this into a movie, a book, a speaking circuit, and it's here. And I guess that'll be the first time for that too. I think it takes away from what the NFL is trying to do or the St. Louis Rams are trying to do. But you know what? At this point, all bets are off for everything. It's out here. We have to deal with it. And so I'm not opposed to him having a reality show. I'm not going to watch it because I don't watch reality TV anyway. I don't watch the Real Housewives of Flint. Well, So I'm not really going to be interested, but I think it's a great idea. I mean, he's out here and he wants to be heard, seen, and networks want to pay money and do it. Why not do it? I think it's a great idea for him and the network. His jersey is selling. So if he never plays another down of football and doesn't make the team, he'll cash in one way or another, and then he'll just open the door for, people, who have the same, sexual orientation to follow that or enlighten others who are closed-minded about that lifestyle. So, hey, I'm fine with it. Like I said, I'm not going to watch it, and I'm definitely not going to watch The Real Housewives of Rockford, Maryland either. I'm just not watching that stuff.
All right, Marcus, last one for you, man. You said you have the number 1 overall pick in the draft. I don't know if you were a Cavs fan growing up or not. But
I wasn't no Cavs fan. I was Lakers and a Michael Jordan fan.
Okay, all right. So the Cavs have the number 1 overall pick. If you're sitting in their front office, who do you take? And here's the conspiracy theory question. Assuming that they, that some of the higher ups thought it'd be a good idea to get the Cavs another number 1 pick. This is the 3rd time they've had the top pick in the last four drafts. Do you think that sets them up for the return of King James?
I think it does set them up for the return of King James. He just needs some young talent to go with it. See, LeBron needs 2 sideshow Bobs, if you will, but the best sideshow Bobs out there. So I think if the Cavs were to take Julius Randle, I think he would be the best big man or potential big man. He can be a Zach Randolph. He can, he can be like some of these other young post players. But you get Randle, who can play inside and outside. You got your Kyrie Irving, if they can keep him and pay both of those guys. Next thing you know, that's really a makeshift Miami Heat squad. I think Kyrie Irving has that work. I went and watched him play live around Christmas, and he went off. It was a game against the Bulls. I like that. So King James, I would love to see him go back. I wasn't a Cavs fan. I'm not even really a LeBron fan, but I think that'd be good for the city of Cleveland. Then his good old buddy Johnny Manziel is going to be around for a few years. Why not go back home, especially if it doesn't work out this year or the Heat break up? Or LeBron takes the show out to the West. Go out there and finally be a Laker, and carry that torch. A lot of guys would love to play out there. But I think the way this draft is setting up, if they were to take Randall, keep Irving, and then bring King James back to Ohio, then it will not be a mistake by the lake anymore. I tell you that.
Yeah, they blew the last draft with a guy who's built much like Julius Randle when they took Anthony Bennett. So you skip Jabari Parker, Wiggins, and Embiid. You skip over those top 3 guys.
I would skip over them if I'm trying to get LeBron that. Now, if there's no chance of getting LeBron, then yeah, I would take one of those swing men, who can fill it up and who are very athletic. But I would rather have LeBron James versus those 3 young guys. A big guy who can shoot the mid-range and athletic and young and hungry. But if there's no chance of getting King James, then I would go with probably Wiggins. Okay. Wiggins or Parker.
Gotcha. 8:29 on a Wednesday. Rays of Light, great as always. Marcus, tell folks how they can get their hands on Rays of Light.
Go to the M-Den. I was there. We was doing autograph signing for C.S. Mott Hospital for charity, and it was an honor just to see my books, there, and they were out. People were looking at them, and they bought a few. So go to the M-Den. Then if you don't want to do that, go to mden.com or go to amazon.com. or if you're a person who likes to read on your smartphone or on your tablet or your iPad, download it on the ebooks and the iBooks. Other than that, you can call Tyrone. He'll bring them to you. So I tell you what, I appreciate the love, fellas, and it's 734-645-9618.
All right, Marcus, as always, man, we appreciate your time. We'll talk to you next week.
Take care, fellas.
All right, that was Marcus Ray. A lot of information there. So, I told you, I've heard a number of pundits, and I should be clear. You remember I was talking yesterday about the national talk show host who was saying leadership is overrated. It's not a big deal. He actually was talking about it in the pros. Now, I guess I didn't draw much of a distinction, and frankly, I still don't. But I'm an outsider. I'm not a pro athlete. So
I don't want to disagree with Marcus, but I'll leave on this note. Tell me one team that has won a Super Bowl without great leadership from players. Tell me one. Find one. You have the all-commercial break to come up with one. I bet you don't.
8:30 on a Wednesday. We got to get to a break. Back on the other side here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTKA, the official voice of University of Michigan Sports.